Welcome, Catherine. Thank you for being here as well with us today. Hope you haven't frozen over there in the corner while we're having a chat. Let's look closely at Lord Mayor's Charitable Foundation and how things have been for you with COVID-19. Can you tell us a bit about how, and I'm just going to abbreviate to LMCF, I've been saying it so many years, I'm so used to it, how LMCF has responded and is responding at this time?
Okay, thanks, Julia. It's been really interesting listening to Sarah and Jodie and reflecting here. So maybe the first thing to explain is that we're actually a community foundation and we're 97 years old. So we're here for the big challenges facing the community, and we identify through evidence, what the big issues are, and clearly there's some relating to homelessness and youth unemployment, climate, etc. But we also have a disaster relief policy. So we've been responding to the disasters, including, bushfires and floods and so on, since the 1930s. So it's a very interesting sort of historical perspective. So when the bushfires occurred, we look at our disaster relief policy, and then I develop a response with the program managers for the board. And then exactly the same as soon as we were coming out of that, COVID-19 started. So in our response, we always think about the immediate challenge and the immediate need for relief, and then we look at recovery, medium and longer term, and then we also look at preparedness. So we've actually been doing a lot of work in recent times over heat waves and preparing Melbourne for heat waves. So that's at the other end, but we had to quickly come back and focus on the challenge now. So really three streams in the first phase, I guess, which have really been, first of all, the health impacts of COVID-19, and very, very quickly funding some work at the Alfred Hospital relating to treatment for the most vulnerable people affected by COVID-19, such as older people and people with compromised immune systems. So that we were able to get that funding through very quickly so they could quickly get that work going. And another project we've done with a range of other foundations funding as well, which is a platform called Covidence, which actually shares sort of best treatment clinical guidelines very quickly, and that's being shared in Australia and actually also internationally. So Australia's got very strong health knowledge and expertise, which we're all starting to appreciate a lot. And then secondly, it was really about scaling up to meet demand. So a few people have mentioned that, and particularly talking to organisations we've already funded who have great capability and who were being really inundated in the need to increase their support. So Justice Connect, particularly in relation to homelessness, and Gather My Crew, which is another digital platform where people can bring their crew together in a time of crisis, and they set up street crews and health crews and other crews, and we were able to engage some other foundations as well with that. And also Ask Izzy, which is a platform for getting information about health and community sort of services, but it's an info exchange program, and it won a Google award to get its first funding, but it has no ongoing funding. So for them to actually scale up, and that actually has information about where COVID-19 testing is and all sorts of practical things. So they were just some examples. And then also we started to realise that organisational and sector resilience is going to be, that was urgent for some, really urgent, particularly in the arts and social enterprises, who some had only a few weeks sort of a run on their income. So we were able to fund, say, Collingwood Yards, which we've been involved with since the beginning through capital grants, but just to help subsidise the rent income that would have come from the arts organisations, the sort of emerging and younger artists. So that's been that side. And then two other elements have been, again, in our strategy. And one is clearly unemployment is going to be a massive problem, particularly for young people and women. So we're starting to fund more in that area. We've just funded this morning a project for YACFIC for 3 years to increase their support for young people generally, but also for young people with disabilities, which is going to be an important area. And a number of other white box enterprises we've contributed to their loan fund for social enterprises. So that sort of practical area we expect over the next few months will just grow. And then the other side is to say we're still actually really committed to our priorities. So we actually still want more social and affordable housing, and we still want a really brilliant climate transition that brings with it jobs as well. So we funded the Smart Energy Council on the last one, on the renewables-led economy and recovery. And then secondly, Everybody's Home, which is Council for Homeless Persons, and their sort of advocacy piece around social and affordable housing as being part of the recovery. So we've been trying to deal with the health, the sort of urgent needs for services, and then now the resilience, and then looking to the recovery and can we build back better? You know, can we actually address some of the long-term issues that we've funded for many, many years as part of the recovery?
Yeah, absolutely. And you see a very unique sort of interwoven perspective with such broad but interconnected focus areas. It just couldn't be more connected to the pandemic, reducing, you know, education and economic inequality, increasing resilience to withstand health and social challenges, and alleviating homelessness. Can you take us a little bit deeper, just under the hood a bit? What are you seeing as some of the major impacts coming our way in these sort of areas that you're focusing on?
So one really positive thing that's come out of this has been the rapid housing of people who are homeless in the city, for example. So 900 people have been housed really in the space of a week or two. It was quite amazing when we had to all go into social isolation. And now the emerging question is, how do we keep that? You know, how do we continue to reduce homelessness, and how do we, you know, build a supply of affordable housing? So we're very interested in, you know, how can some of the stimulus funding be brought into projects. So we have a couple of projects at the moment that we're funding, capital ones, where we're hoping that our capital grant will assist in leveraging government funding. And then, yeah, I think on the employment side, where I mean, there's just so much to do. So we're doing more and more work on that, and also on the recovery side in terms of the renewables-led recovery. That I have already mentioned that, but we've got some really interesting projects. One with the Brotherhood of St Lawrence, which is looking at energy efficiency in vulnerable communities and vulnerable households, and we're hoping, or we know we are, but I can't really say yet, but we have a couple of other foundations who are going to come in with us on that. And then there's opportunity, if that can be demonstrated, so it's increasing energy efficiency and reducing cost, that can be scaled up as part of a stimulus recovery project as well. So, yeah.
Excellent. And can you, Catherine, give us a little perspective? You know, not many of us have worked necessarily within a grant-making organisation, within a community foundation, or within a philanthropic organisation. What's it like, and from your perspective, what's it been like for your organisation, and what is it a little bit like for funders at this time, you know, grappling in this new environment?
It's been very busy. I think Jodie mentioned the need for speed, and certainly we got through nearly $900,000 or about $900,000 of grants very, very quickly at the beginning of the pandemic, and today about another 700,000 approved for COVID-19 projects. So we're really busy in terms of, we just have to absolutely get on with it. This is the moment when foundations are needed, and we had a disaster relief fund that we've been squirreling funds away for some years. So we've used about 800,000 from that. So we've actually funded more this year than we were expecting to. So because of the COVID-19 and the bushfires before that. So and then you're trying to maintain the strategy and address the challenges that we know we have to do, but at the same time we also have to understand what's happening now. So the program managers and I are just very engaged in understanding what's going on and connecting with all our networks and seeing what's happening everywhere. I'm watching what foundations are doing overseas, so I'm very interested to see what's happening in New York. You know, in touch with different people in other foundations. You know, one really interesting thing is that the Ford Foundation and the MacArthur Foundation, they're taking out loans now to increase their granting capability, which is something really new.
Wow.
So it is actually like you just have to be looking out all the time and driving the bus in this very uncertain time, and make sure that we're doing where we're needed. You know, we're sort of going where we're needed most, as they say.
Yeah, fantastic. Excellent.